We always say that we have many things that are in common between ancient Egyptians and our life today. Well, maybe today actually we're going to talk more about the Egyptian army, but let's take a look at ancient Egyptian army. Definitely we have many things in common, and we always say that army means a lot to Egyptians, to all Egyptians actually, and maybe many people or many different nationalities with different culture, still they don't understand the relation between Egyptians in general and the relation between them and the Egyptian army. What about ancient Egyptian army? This is the question. Today we have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Bessam الشماع, and he is a historian and author in Egyptology. Long time since we met last time. Good morning.
No see. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Dr. Bessam, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Can you tell us about the ancient Egyptian army, how it was armed, what were the most important battles that he went through?
Well, like many things in ancient Egypt, we like to create this kind of relationship between today, tomorrow, and yesterday.
Yes.
We like doing that because we have all the elements that proves that. The ancient Egyptian army is no different than the Egyptian army in many ways. For example, we are the first kind of tactic army in the world's history. We are the first people to make a civilized and a kind of also disciplined way of fighting. Discipline equals army, army equals discipline. If there was no discipline, there would be no army. That is well known. We learned it when we joined the army. I learned it when I joined the army in Alexandria when I was young. So in ancient Egypt, we found many things. First of all, you are the first person to give ranks, titles, military marches. I brought you some pictures with me. You are going to see, for example, a platoon, an ancient Egyptian platoon, which are marching with the left leg forward. And that was taken by all the first weaponry in ancient Egypt. To start with is the slate palette of Narmer, or Narmer as they call him in English. The slate palette of Narmer is showing us the king in full regalia, in full royal regalia, but he is holding in his hand, as you can see in the picture, he's holding in his hand a mace head, a maqma' as they call it. A mace head was one of the first weaponry which was invented by the ancient Egyptian army, and the ancient Egyptian king used it a lot. That 3,200 years BC, that scene, that very scene will be repeated by many kings on depicted scenery, on the pylons of the, whenever you see a pylon in a temple, when you go to Luxor, you're going to find the king smiting captives of wars, kind of airing all this kind of fear and threat to the enemy by this huge mace head. The Egyptian army used weaponry and also a little bit of changes all through the history. They learned from the enemy some weaponry. They didn't have a problem with that. And that reminds me directly with 1973, 6th of October, when we learned about others' weaponry and we added to it, as the Egyptian genius army added to it, and that helped a great deal in the victory. So you're going to see, for example, Ramesses III or Ramesses III smiting captives of war using the same mace head that his predecessor used hundreds and hundreds of years before him. Also, you're going to see that there is a man called Shulman who made a study that he found out there in the ancient Egyptian army there were 63 titles and 63 titles and ranks. We have a rank of Nefer. Here is the first rank, Nefer. Nefer is a hieroglyphic rank. Nefer, anything Nefer in ancient Egypt hieroglyphs means beauty. So what's beauty got to do with a soldier in the army? This is your first title when you join the army. There was recruitment, by the way, in ancient. We were the first people to invent the idea of recruitment. So when you're recruited as a male, as a young male, and there is no age, a text is telling us 20 years of age is the age of recruitment. Other texts did not mention, ignored the business of how old are you to join the army. But the interesting thing is that Nefer is a hieroglyphic word which, as it means beauty, it also means mature. And it also means kind of nice and pious, the piety. So I love these three descriptions of an Egyptian soldier. He is pious, he is well known of his piety, he is beautiful, and he's a good man. He is the good man. So this is your title. You will be called upon in the army as the mature, good man, beautiful young guy. Second thing, when you are recruited, you are given 12 auroras. Auroras is like an aurora is like a faddan. It's a vast area of land to plant and to sow your seeds in. So as a soldier in the army, once you join, the government will give you a gift for free in form of land. I think that's genius as well. If you go in a battle and you are defending your land, you are practically defending your land. You're not only defending your land as a word, but as a kind of an act. Also, you have the freedom to be promoted if you are a good soldier. And we have a man with the name of E. They call him I. I is a wrong naming. He is a king. You remember him with Tutankhamun, and he was well known in the tomb of Tutankhamun. So he started as an enormous soldier, and he went all the way up until he became a yawar to the king. He became that person who presents the king. He's always beside the king, and he became king. So you can be a ruler of the country, starting from being a soldier or a member of the Egyptian army. That happened also thousands of years ago. So if you look at the pictures, you will notice the discipline. You will notice also that they invented types of helmets that they would wear. And when you go to take a look at a military temple, how will you know the nationality of your enemy? I'll tell you the secret. I'll tell you the key. Look at the helmet. And also look at the facial features. Hittites, for example, they were the nemesis of ancient Egyptians until the peace treaty between Ramessu and the king of the Hittites. But the Battle of Kadesh, as an example of, there were two very famous battles in ancient Egypt. Megiddo by Thutmose III, amazing battle. Megiddo is in Palestine. There's a place in Palestine. Very tough place to take. Very tough place to conquer. It's on a hill, it's a citadel, it's a fortress. The people there are very strong. They are supported by another kingdom called the Mitannis. The Mitanni kingdom is northern Mesopotamia, if you like, so that we can give an idea where it was. The Mitannis were called by the Egyptians Naharina. So when you read in hieroglyphics, Naharina, it reminds me of the Nahr, which is an Arabic word for river. And because of Mesopotamia, well-known two rivers, so it could have a relationship. That's what we like to do. So Mitannis supported the people of Megiddo, of the citadel of Megiddo, and the prince of Kadesh was supporting the whole idea. So sometimes there was a confederation, if you like, of enemies united against the Egyptians who are trying to put down a rebellion, for example, because there were lots of rebellions happening in these areas, in the Levant and in these areas. So Thutmose III, the genius military man, I got a picture of the gentleman. And by the way, the most beautiful looking man ever. You will forget Tom Cruise and Richard Gere for a minute, right? And you will see Thutmose III. Here is another scene of the king Den. That's his name, by the way. And we know that his name is Den, very close to Dana, which is another Arabic word for a weapon. His name is in a serech. This is before the invention of the cartouche. And the serech is the design of the palace facade. He is smiting a captive of war. Notice in the picture that he's not only using a mace head now he's changing, now he's adding. And in the other hand, which is close to the head of the captive of war, he is holding a bat, a stick which looks like a bat. And that was another stick used in the army. So now from the archaic period and from Ne'armer to Den, which is not far in distance in history, the Egyptian army are inventing more weaponry. This kind of new weaponry to the Egyptians. Going back to Thutmose III, 17 successful campaigns. Thutmose III doesn't lose a battle. He's always a winner. And Megiddo became the first detailed, mentioned military tactic and strategies all the way to be mentioned in history with that detail. So we are to be honored as Egyptians to be the pioneers of the first military record of a battle with the number of soldiers, number of captives of war, number of... And Thutmose III was given by his beautiful friends around with the generals of the army, by the officers of his army. They advised him to go to the other way instead of going headlong against the enemy of Megiddo. He did not take the advice of the generals, and he went headlong, straight forward, and that would very dangerous, because that would make the Egyptian army go through a narrow path. Narrow path, of course, would be easy to be attacked and finished, but he took the risk, and that surprised the army of the enemy.
So the surprise again was the main or the key of success, because as you were talking right now, definitely many things in common, even when you mentioned that other countries or other nationalities are working together against the Egyptian army. This is the same what is happening right now, definitely.
Yeah.
But talking about it, I want to concentrate more about these battles, like the Qadish, of course, the one of the most famous actually. Talking about the ethics as well. Because when it comes to the Egyptian army and any other army, definitely people do not understand, because it is in other countries a job that you can join, you can be trained, and at the end you will be an officer or working in the army. But here in Egypt it is completely different, just as you mentioned. Definitely all of the youth, they join the army, and some people, they say, no, we don't want our children to go into the army. But let me say that definitely when you join the army, you will be completely a different person, that you are losing a lot, just building a new personality to be in the practical life.
I'm with you 150%.
So,
and an example is myself. When I joined, and this is my advice to all Egyptian families, when I joined the army in Alexandria, it made me another person. It gave me the toughness that you have
Maybe in 1 year or 2 years, only 2 years.
15 months, I joined for 15 months, and 15 months actually changed the history of my lifetime. And going back to the famous Battle of Qadish, because that's discipline.
And ethics as well, that we don't see in other...
Well, the Egyptian army in the days of Ramesses II was comprised of 4 platoons, 4 big armies. And he gave them names. And by the way, every platoon will have its own flag in ancient Egypt. And also every weapon and section will have their own flag. Here is our man. This is, if you want, if the Egyptian army wants a symbol to be used, a symbol for the Egyptian army, they would take this statue. This statue, 1, is of Thutmose III, 1400s BC. 2, of the greatest military leader of all times in ancient history. 3, the most well-executed statue, I can tell you, after 34 years of reading history. That statue is in the east bank of Luxor, in the museum of Luxor today. Go and visit the Egyptians, because you will be standing in front of the most exquisite piece of art. I've been visiting this statue in my guiding career, and I stand in front of it, and it never ceases to amaze you. 4, he's the leader of the Megiddo, the famous Megiddo battle, one of the 17 battles that he did. 5, he is the tactic inventor of the headlong, tricky kind of war. And war is a trick, right? War is a trick. Smart, intelligent, good-looking, amazing empire, to the point that I can tell you easily, uncomfortably, that in the days of the rule of this gentleman, 54 years of ruling, Egypt, including that Hatshepsut usurped the throne from him, poor guy, at the beginning, when I was young. He led the greatest empire ever. We don't have that vastness in the Egyptian empire before Thutmose III or after Thutmose III until 2015. That is the man who ruled the greatest land, if you like, area of the Egyptian empire, all the way until the rivers of Asia. Proud of being Egyptian. How did we know? When he went and saw the river in Asia during his battles, he found a river that flows, all rivers, or most of the rivers, flows from north to south. Yeah. The Egyptian river Nile from south towards the northern direction. So it is me who is correct. It is my river who is not different. You different, but I am the origin of righteous, if you like. That's the point. So he decided to name that river an amazing name. The waters that flows against the direction. As if he's saying, my river is the right direction, and you guys are the different ones. Of course, it was the opposite.
Yes.
But this is how proud he is, and he was about being Egyptian and about giving the river Nile. There is also the fighter. This is the hieroglyphic word, kefa'u, of the word fighter in ancient Egypt. This is how it is pronounced. Kef, F, F, this snake is an F. The basket is a K. A is an arm. The A, not in English. This is a letter not in English, right? The Ain. And then the W, the W or the U or the O, which is the chick whale, right? Another one are the enemies of Egypt. There were very famous enemies of Egypt called the Sea People. That's Ramesses III. Sea People, tough people. Confederation from the Aegean Sea, battles, marine battles, amazing. He was the leader, Ramesses III, of the most amazing marine battle, which is so exquisitely carved in Medinat Habu Temple that the Alexandrian Library in October will show, CultNat, will show a 3D virtual reality battle made from the scene. So it is the most, you are talking about Kadesh and Megiddo and how Ramesses III see people. Kadesh is the most detailed battle in history, detailed battle on walls. You can actually write the battle day by day from the records of the ancient Egyptians. To the point that they found out that the chariot wheels battle in Kadesh was between 5,000 to 6,000 chariot wheels, which is the great, what's a chariot wheel? It's a tank. Today, you can compare it and resemble it to a tank. Now, 1973 had the biggest, most amazing battle army and battle station in the history of military, right? Well, go back to Egypt, you'll find 6,000 chariot wheels. This is the chariot wheel I'm talking about. Now, this scene, take a very close look at this scene because you will notice an amazing thing made by the king. The king is with his chariot wheel. He is, of course, going to be using his bow to fight the enemy. Now, look, you are on that chariot wheel. You are holding and getting your string stretched to throw your arrow towards the enemy. Now, your both hands are busy. How are you going to use the reins of the horses? Look what he's done. He is actually putting the reins around his waist. See how the reins go around the waist? So he's putting, this is exactly what the people do today. If you take a look at some in our villages, when they are leading their horses and their donkeys, they sometimes, because their hands are busy, or he's resting his arms a little bit, he's going to put his reins around his waist. Amazing smartness. Let's take a look at the other pictures, because they are pretty important. I'll take you back here is to look at the other pictures forward, please. Yes, here are the platoons. And the Magi were the Nubian geniuses. Platoon, they were the elite, if you like. The Magi. Magi were southerners. They were very strong. They were very famous for their bow and arrow. And that's why Nubia was not called Nubia in ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, Nubia was called Ta City. Ta, land. City in hieroglyphics is the bow. So it's the land of the bow, because they were very famous with the bow and the arrow, the Magi. Let's take a look at that. Notice also that they are proceeding with their left leg. So this is the invention. Here is another platoon of the elite forces of ancient Egypt. Look how strong they are. They are very strong. They are muscled. They are athletes. There are no big tummies. There are no, I don't know, extra weight. And I don't know what. There are no cigarettes. There are no shisha. There is nothing. Those guys are healthy. And that's what the army should be and the police should be. They are proceeding with their left leg. That gives you directly the famous military march of the Egyptians that all armies around the world copied from. Left, right, left, right. So let's take a look at the other picture, please, because there is a very important picture coming that I would like you to show. Here is the Asha. So now we know that there will be platoons in different segments or different sections of the Egyptian army. Here's the Asha, and we knew that because he's got a quiver on his back where he's going to put his arrows. Let's look at the other picture, please. And we know about the enemies. Here is very important. If you're a good soldier, then you shall be prized. You shall be given a note in hieroglyphic. In hieroglyphic. In hieroglyphic, the word note is a note in Arabic. And you will be given that medal of honor, Légion d'honneur, the gold of honor. Here it is exactly the same word in French. It is the gold that you are going to be given. So if you're a good army man, you shall be prized and you will be the medal of the 3 golden flies. These are flies, okay? These are, now, what's the relation between a fly and a soldier? But of course, the fly is the biggest maneuvering creature ever. Can you catch a fly? You cannot catch a fly. Can you speed up a fly? You cannot speed up a fly. So as an army man, you should be like this. You should have all these kind of descriptions and features of being fast, of being swift, of being maneuvering, tactics, strategies, smartness in dealing with the enemy, and that's definitely what happened in most of the battles that we are talking about.
But Dr. Bassam, of course, as we are speaking, that the Egyptian army since the ancient times, it had military tactics and intelligent tactics, of course. So what were, very briefly, the most important military tactics that were used and they were copied by other armies in the world and also we are still using until now?
Divisions. First of all, your army is not one block moving together. No, there will be divisions. Ramesses II in Qadish, they are army into 4 platoons. Yes. Amun, they give them names. Amun, Pitah, Set, if you like, and other names that will be given. Every platoon, every party will be divided into small parties. Yes. There will be also people who will catch spies. And in Abu Simbel, on the right-hand side when you enter, you'll find 2 tribesmen were caught by the Egyptian army in the Qadish battle. And you will find the Egyptian soldiers beating them with sticks on their heads because they want them to confess. Where are the Hittites? They're going to tell us where are the Hittites. So they will, so spies, which means that there was intelligence. There was parties in the Egyptian army of intelligence to know things. So the business of spies were also well known. Also, making unity with enemy against enemy, that happened. So for example, the Mitannis, they were enemies in Megiddo. For example, in the Megiddo battle, they were enemies of Egypt. But then you would notice that they will be friends with Egypt against the Hittites. So there was this business of, I'm going to join with the Mitannis against the Hittites. And they married Akhenaten. Thutmoses IV were married from Mitanni princesses to make this kind of, if you like, would you like to call it diplomatic marriages? Love conquers all.
Again, this will take us to the tactics, to the way of thinking, to the vision. Even when it comes to the division, the most important part that they have one leader, he is guiding them, regardless of the division. And the most important part, again, all acting as one man. This is the secret of success. And unfortunately, time is running up. We have to conclude, but for myself, I believe, and even Sally, we want to hear more about what is happening. So Dr. Bessam الشماع, actually historian and author in Egyptology, always a pleasure having you with us on the show. And right now, moving on to a quick break, and we'll be back to resume the breakfast show.